Now, the tech world has a new billionaire, Media.net founder Div Turakhia. His new net worth comes after a Chinese consortium bought him out, the latest in a string of Chinese firms acquiring online advertising businesses. Mark New sat down with Turakhia and started by asking him how Media.net carved out a space in the crowded area known as contextual advertising.
Based on what you're reading, we identify the topics and we show you relevant ads from within that space. So for example, if you're reading you're reading content around buying a new luxury car, we've identified that and we'll show you an ad related to buying a new luxury car. And hence, it's a lot more relevant for you as a user.
Some people might say that they don't want to be bombarded with ads.
And that's what contextual helps doing, right? Because to your point, people don't like way too many ads. I mean, obviously, digital advertising is a very important part of the entire internet or the world ecosystem as we know it today, because without digital advertising, think about the world, we'd have to pay for services like search, or if you had to search on Baidu, or you had to search on Google or Yahoo or Bing, and you had to pay for every search, or you had to pay for using Facebook, you had to pay for using Instagram or Twitter, the world would be a massively different place as compared to what it is today. At the same time, improving the relevance of the ads allows publishers to reduce the number of ad pixels, because once the ads are far more engaging and they're far more relevant to the user, the number of ad pixels that you have to show to each user reduces for the same amount of money that you have to make, and hence you don't have to end up showing flashy ads or blinky ads or be bombarded with like a million ads in order to make the same kind of dollars that are required to be made by the publisher that is creating that content.
The Beijing-based consortium, Miteno, purchased MediaNet for $900 million in cash.
Ad tech is very big in China, as you may know. It's this year it's a $40 billion market in terms of market size. It's the second largest outside of the US. So we get access to the great China capital markets, which allows us to expand both organically and inorganically on a global basis. And two is we now get unique access to the local China market, which is large, which we're not playing in right now, which is currently 2 or 3 years behind the US at least in terms of its sophistication levels.
This obsession with China and ad tech companies.
I don't think it's an obsession with just ad tech, right? I think the China obsession is around, look, we have great capital, where can we buy growth? And where can we buy growth globally? So if I look at deals overall from China in terms of overseas investment, across the last 2 years, we've seen deals across everything from hotels to insurance companies to ad tech to whatever else. And there are thousands of companies in ad tech, right? But the number of deals from China are still far more limited because the smart money in China is pursuing those deals globally across any sector that has material growth and has shown consistency.
You wish you were in China even earlier.
That is true. I should have been in China. I would have loved to be in China at least 3 years ago. And it's all because of the market size, right? The market size in China is already $40 billion. And I currently make zero off that.
You've made a lot of money in your life before, so this effectively makes you a billionaire at the age of 34 years old. Tell me about how this all started off. And I believe it begins with entrepreneurial ideas in India.
I got lucky that I figured out what I was passionate about when I was really young. I started programming when I was 8 or 9, and I ran a bulletin board system pre-internet in India. So when the internet came into India in 95, I knew everything about it. That allowed me to consult lots of large corporates around how to get set up as far as the internet is concerned. So I started a domain registration and hosting company. I co-founded that with my brother. Borrowed $500 or $600 from my dad.
And you were how old?
I was 16. Yeah, it did well. I made my first million by the time I was 18. By the time I was 21, I had 100,000 plus customers. By the time I was 23, I'd made my first 100 million. And with this deal, now I am, way above $1 billion. But the money has never been the motivating factor. I'm not saying it's not important, because it's like, if you're playing basketball and you don't keep score, it's not as much fun to play it. So it's a good score from a metric standpoint to understand whether you're doing well or you're not doing well. But I'm very passionate about building tech businesses and about solving complex problems around about building cool tech, and that's what keeps me going.
Does being a thrill seeker, and you can tell us about that, does being a thrill seeker play into your entrepreneurial style and helping you to achieve what you've achieved?
Like, I like everything that goes fast. I do aerobatic flying, so spins, loops, lumshavaks, hammerheads, in all of that in a plane, like inverted flying and inverted loops. I do wing walking. I understand that some people will look at some of the things that I do and they're like, oh, this looks crazy. But it's a lot about risk management and the way I run everything. When I'm doing anything, whether it's running a business or basically doing a high adrenaline sport, I have calculated the risk parameters across everything. I have made sure that I train with the best. I've made sure that I figured out my backup plan. My backup plans are backup plans. I've perfected it to a point where I know exactly what the plane is going to do and where it's going to come out, and I know exactly what I'm going to do when each thing fails, or if there are multiple failures, and how to bail out of that situation. And that's the same thing in business. At the end of the day, some of these bets may seem more risky, but really I've already pre-calculated what the risks are within every investment that we make.